Well, hello students, and welcome to another episode. Today, our episode is going to be all about rivers, one of Minnesota's great natural resources. I thought I'd give you a short lesson on watersheds and continental divides. Don't worry, I'll be quick about it. Watersheds drain the excess water from an area. It flows downhill to a larger body of water. The largest watershed that you can have would be called a drainage basin. And where two drainage basins come together, that line we call a continental divide. The divide separates the two directions that water might flow. So an easy continental divide to picture is the Rocky Mountains. Rainfall on one side is going to go west towards the Pacific, and rainfall on the other side of the Rocky Mountains will go east. Now we have three continental divides right around the town of Hibbing. So imagine a big rain event, a huge thunderstorm rolling through. Well, water running off from that thunderstorm could end up in three different places. One, it could travel north towards Hudson Bay. It could travel east towards Lake Superior and then out the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Atlantic Ocean. It could travel south into the Mississippi River Basin and out to the Gulf of Mexico. Today we're going to be going to three very different rivers. Let's go to the big map and get oriented as to where we're going to go today.
Here we go, come on.
So here's Woodbury Middle School, and we're going to be heading a short hop, skip, and a jump over to Afton. This is Bellwyn Conservancy, and right next door is Valley Branch Creek, also known as Valley Creek. We're going to have a nice time wading around in there. Then we're going to head over to St. Paul and Lake Phalen. We'll be using small kayaks, and we're going to go from this round lake up the creek called Spoon Creek into Keller Lake. It'll be interesting to compare this creek with Valley Creek. Final stop, Fort Snelling State Park along the Minnesota River Valley, right before it joins the Mississippi River. Hello students, and welcome to Valley Creek. I'm standing in this beautiful stream because it's supposed to be one of the few places in Minnesota where you'll find brook trout, rainbow trout, and brown trout. It's the perfect habitat. So I'm here with my helpers, McKeon and Greta. And we're going to be looking at biotic and abiotic factors. So, what do trout need to survive? Well, they need cold temperatures. They need lots of oxygen. So all the little rapids that we see are helping to mix oxygen in. Cold water is better for dissolving oxygen. They need the water to be clear so that they can see their prey. And they need sand and gravel because that's where they lay their eggs when they spawn. So we're going to be looking for those things. All of these trees are really important for the trout too. They provide shade so the water doesn't get too warm. It's already getting dangerously too warm for the trout. So a spot with no trees, the surface temperatures would be much too warm and there'd be too little oxygen. Very clear and clean looking though. This is a spring-fed creek, so that comes from the groundwater and that helps keep it cool.
So this is a good place right here for a trout to hide. It's right under there. Has nice shelter, pretty shallow too. So
Okay, hide from what?
predators like
Heron, you know what a heron? What else would eat them? Fishermen. In fact, McKeon, fly fishermen specialize in trout. They make intricate lures that look like the natural prey of trout. One of these is called the caddisfly. Let's look here to see if we can find any caddisfly larvae. So, we're going to turn over some rock. What do we hope to find?
larva.
Larvae of little flies called caddisflies. think there's little larvae inside of these. And if I pull it, inside there's a little creature. Did you find something cool?
Yeah, this rock right here has thousands. Oh, these might be something. This is a good place for some trout to hang out because it has gravel, sand, and sticks for it to hide.
Before we go, check out one of my favorite plants, spotted jewelweed. It has a seed pod that's spring-loaded. The slightest touch will send the seeds flying. Well, our time at Valley Creek is done. What a great place to spend a hot summer day. Spoon Creek is very different from Valley Creek. The water here is very still. Surface temperatures are quite a bit warmer due to the sun heating up the surface of the lake that feeds Spoon Creek. There's a lot of nutrients running into the creek, and as you can see, tons of plant growth, and the water temperatures are too warm. That doesn't mean, though, that there isn't a lot of interesting wildlife here. As you can see, there's heron that are probably looking for frogs and small fish, and the fish that live here are still worth a fisherman's time. Let's ask this fisherman. What's your name, sir?
My name is Dong.
Dong, you come fishing a lot?
I do it recently, actually. I was never a big fisher, but now with Corona going on, it became a new hobby.
It's great thing to do.
Yeah, it's fun. Catching a fish is a thrill of it's the best.
Largemouth bass are good game fish, and they prefer this type of habitat. Several busy roads pass over Spoon Creek, but these bridges actually provide a pretty good habitat for one bird in particular, the barn swallow. It makes mud nests up in the support structures of the bridge, and there are plenty of insects to catch above the water. You might be able to see one here zooming around. There it goes. Fort Snelling State Park is located at the confluence of the Minnesota and Mississippi rivers. The river valleys provide a lot of green space as they move through the cities. The area is prone to flooding, and therefore not a lot of development happens in what's called the floodplain, the part of the valley that is periodically and regularly flooded. The upper Mississippi and Minnesota rivers do have quite a bit of game fish in them.
Heck yeah, buddy!
However, for this segment, I'm going to focus on the land. The kind of land here is called a floodplain. In the spring, this would be underwater. And these trees have to be adapted to survive in those conditions. It means no oxygen to their roots for a certain period of time. Mostly all these trees are cottonwoods, which are particularly adapted to the floodplain. Silver maple is another tree well suited for floodplains. Both trees have special adaptations to help them survive in floodplains. Most trees can only live for a day or two when flooded. But both silver maple and cottonwood and a few other trees can survive up to a month or more of flooding. One of their adaptations is shallow roots. These dry out quickly when the floodwaters recede, where trees with deeper roots will be down in the soil that's very wet for a long time and be deprived of oxygen. One problem of shallow roots in the city, though, are that these trees, if planted near a sidewalk, can actually cause the sidewalk to heave or lift up. So on one side of the trail, you have a great big set of cottonwoods, and you can tell those by the very deeply furrowed bark with kind of a diamond pattern to it. And then on the other side, we have the other floodplain species I talked about, and that is the silver maple. And you can tell that by this long kind of bark that's in strips. Let's take a look at how big these are. One of the things that struck me when visiting Fort Snelling State Park was the amount of history that's here, especially of the Dakota people. This was the center of the Dakota universe. Because the Dakota built temporary settlements, they were able to move seasonally. So the floodplain was a great place to be. Some of that history is very painful. This is a memorial that was built in 1987 by the Dakota people to remember the concentration camp that was here at this spot in 1862, and the 100 or more men, women, and children who died that winter. Because of its rich history and the beautiful natural area, I plan on returning to Fort Snelling. Well, that's our show on rivers, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I hope you can join me next week when we learn about people's efforts to repair nature through something called restoration. So in the meantime, as always, have a beautiful day.